External preamps versus internal preamps. The age-old question. Why do they sound different? What sounds different about them? Well, today we're going to answer some of those questions by looking at the Heritage Audio Super 8 external preamps versus the Apollo X8p internal preamps. To get a true A-B comparison for this video, I took the signal from the microphones, plugged it into an XLR splitter, and then took that signal and sent it to both the Apollo X8p internal preamps and the external preamps of the Heritage Audio Super 8. For both of these, we used the Apollo as the converter, while the Super 8 does have an A to D, D to A converter on it. We decided to not worry about that element of the unit itself and instead just focus on the preamps of the Super 8 going straight into the line ins of the Apollo X8p. The Heritage Audio Super 8 has 8 Class A 3-stage 1073 style preamps with both an input and output transformer. It also has some A to D, D to A conversion, but I decided not to use that for today's test and instead just use the conversion of the Apollos for both the Apollo preamps and the preamps for the Super 8. The Apollo X8p has 8 internal preamps with it that are all the Apollo Unison preamps, which are the preamps where you can put a plug-in on it and it changes the actual current and how it flows in the preamp to model a few different sounds. For this test, I did no modeling whatsoever, just did the straight clean preamp. Now, I could have done the 1073 Unison preamp emulation for this test and was sort of planning on it, but then I ran out of time. So that's going to be something I come back to in another video coming up soon. Real quick, hit that like button and the subscribe button as well because it helps me to feed my pet polar bear. His name is Jacob. He's a good boy. He hasn't eaten in days. He's hungry. He's tired. He's thirsty. His wife left him 3 years ago, took the kid, left him with no house. He had to find an apartment and a new job. It's been hard. In terms of microphones and microphone techniques for the Rogers kit, I used 8 microphones, 2 kick drum microphones, 2 snare drum microphones, a pair of overheads, a crotch mic or knee mic, and then a room mic to round everything out. For the kick-in, I used a boundary mic. I forget the exact microphone model. The kick-out, I used a Warm Audio 47 Junior. For the snare top, I used an SM57. And the second snare drum microphone I used was a small diaphragm condenser. The overheads were a pair of AKG 451Bs that were in a space pair configuration. For the crotch mic, I actually don't remember, but you're going to see it in the video, and I'm going to post the name of the microphone here. And for the room mic, I used a Lauten Audio 220 large diaphragm condenser. For the jazz recordings, I used those Lauten Audio 220 large diaphragm condensers in the Engelhardt method. And if you're not familiar with that, then you can go check out my friend Mike D'Angelo's video talking about miking technique for jazz, which explains that miking technique. Then I used a small diaphragm condenser on the snare drum. I think it was the AKG 451. And on the kick drum, I used the Warm Audio 47 Junior, sort of just right outside the bass drum to get some of that tone. Enough explanation now. Let's listen to some drums. We're going to hear some examples of the whole mix that I did for each set of preamps. Then we'll go through each individual microphone really quickly and then go back to the full context to sort of round out what we're hearing. So, surprised by the results? Honestly, I was a little bit surprised. I thought there was going to be more of a change from the Apollo X8p to the Super 8. The biggest change for me that I heard was in the crotch mic and then in the room mic. In the Super 8, we could push the preamp a little bit more with the tube that's in the Super 8 and get a little bit more character and a little more grit once we're really pushing the preamp a little too hard. And we couldn't quite get that same warmth and character in the Apollo X8p. Overall, on all the other microphones, there was a little bit of extra grit in the Super 8, and a little bit extra warmth, and a little bit of a sort of vibe to it. It's sort of hard to tell and hear. If I were to do this whole test again, which I'm going to, I would do a few things differently. The first is that I would turn the output transformer of the Super 8 all the way up, and then dial in my level from the preamp input transformer. In this example that I did, I had them at about 50%, and between 50 and 75% based on the microphone that I was using and the amount of gain that I was getting. And in talking to a few friends and other engineers, they had mentioned turning that output transformer all the way up and then dialing the sound in and the level in from the input transformer, the preamp control. They had said that this would get a slightly different sound, maybe allow you to use more of the get more of the preamp sound instead of turning some of it back of the output and then having to crank it up on the input. So that'll be one thing I do slightly differently in my next test. The other thing is that I'm going to also pair the Apollo X8p to the Unison 1073 preamps. So it'll be comparing the same style of preamp, the 1073 style in the Super 8 with the 1073 emulation in the Apollo X8p. And I'll be curious to see if the Apollo X8p has the same characteristic or sound quality that the Heritage Audio Super 8 does with its 1073 style preamp. Well, that's all, folks, for this video. Thanks for sticking around and watching, and I hope that you learned something and had a little bit of entertainment value from this video. Thanks for sticking around and watching this video up to this point. I really appreciate it, and hope that you enjoyed this video looking at the internal versus external preamp debate, which one's better, how they're different, all that good stuff. If you enjoyed the video today, I would really appreciate, again, that like and subscribe. Again, Jacob is hungry. Stay tuned in the next few weeks for another video where I do this whole thing, but again, and a little bit better. And for other videos where I teach you how to be a better drummer. So if you're not a drummer, you're gonna be, and you're gonna be a good one, darn it. If you learn from me. Yeah. If you are a drummer and you want something absolutely for free, you can get something down in the video description that'll help you with your jazz drumming. It'll teach you jazz drumming, the basics. Need I say more? Go download it, be a good drummer, learn some stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.